Welcome, everyone. I'm Spaghetti, and today is yet even more Dungeons & Dragons stories from the internet. Isn't that amazing? Now, let us begin. How an 8-year-old completely derailed the campaign. So I'm running a solo homebrew campaign for my daughter, just so she can get the hang of the game and used to how it works. She started out as a sweet young half-elf druid that was just wandering the woods, found a fox in a trap and hurt. Being a sweetheart, she got it out of the trap and healed it, where it then became her companion and named her Zelda. Good start for a kid, right? It starts raining, so they go to find cover in a cave nearby, and hear a little girl screaming deep inside, so a stealth check past some wolves feasting, and one round surprise attack on 2 goblins, and they rescue the kid. On their way to the girl's town, they end up teaming up with an NPC level 1 human warlock to fight against 4 bandits. They make quick work of them. She grows to level 2 now and decides to multi-class into a paladin, Oath of the Ancients, and gets to town where the warlock leaves the party, and she receives a nice reward for the girl's parents for returning her. End of the first session. Session 2. She wants to shop. Don't worry, things are gonna get good. So she goes into a shop and buys a health potion from a kooky old lady after having a nice conversation. She then starts to walk to a park nearby to have a bite to eat with Zelda, but gets stopped by a shady mugger whispering to her to give him all her stuff with a hidden dagger. So she decides, with 0 fucks given, to stab him and rolled max damage to kill him in 1 thrust of her sword in broad daylight in the middle of the town square. So I tell her, people around you just saw you kill someone for no reason and are screaming, calling for the guards to come. She had a look of worry and had no clue what to do, so I told her to make a perception check. 19. Told her there's a ladder a few feet away from you going up to the roof of a building. She climbs it with 6 guards chasing her. There are 2 buildings close enough for her to jump to, one with another ladder going down to the street, and the other with a staircase going down into the house. She chooses the staircase one and rolls acrobatics for herself and Zelda separately. Zelda is full ride or die mode with her at this moment. Both get really high rolls while half the guards fall between the gap, where one dies due to falling damage and 2 guards falling on him. She breaks the door to go in with advantage, thanks to Zelda helping. Makes another perception check, natural 20. Finds a closet that is really small but fits both her and Zelda, just enough while guards check all over the house and can't find them, so they leave the check outside. She takes a cloak and makes her way to the potion shop, passing 3 deception checkpoints of guards looking for her. She tries persuading the potion lady to help her that she is innocent and rolls a natural 20 to get a free potion of disguise, 24 hours, and a potion of love, 24 hours, which the old lady was going to use on herself to make a younger man want her. She uses the potion of disguise to make herself look like an adorable little girl, and the fox becomes a cute white fluffy baby rabbit that she's going to hold in her arms to look unbelievably cute. Some context before this part. The town has a small castle and a few mansions where the rich and elite live, gated off from the lower class. So she says,
"Hey, I look really cute, right? I'm going to the castle."
Me, huh? You know that the whole town knows what you did and they're going to arrest you if they find out it's you. Her.
Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out what she's up to. She convinces the guards at the gate that her parents are on the other side. She rolled really high. Then went up to the castle guards and told them that the guards outside the gate are trying to kill her. Me. Roll persuasion. The only way they will believe that is if you get her.
Natural 20.
Me. An expression of disbelief. Me as the guard. Stay inside the castle for now, but don't touch anything. We will take care of this. Her.
Okay.
Proceeds to go in and do the opposite of what the guard said. She gets to a hallway inside with 5 doors on each side. So the door she chooses has a werewolf chained up against the wall, so her knowing this thing is trying to break free, trying to bite her, and breaks one arm free trying to claw at her and Zelda. But she gives 0 fucks and says,
"I want to make him drink the love potion."
Me. Oh god. So since this werewolf is basically trying to rip her apart, I told her, you have to roll for athletics to see if you can get the potion in its mouth fast enough, because if you don't roll high enough, then he's gonna grab you and bite you. Her.
Yeah, I know.
Rolls natural 20. Me. You shove the love potion in his mouth and make sure he drinks all of it, so now he's in love with you and will do anything you want for the next 24 hours. She casts Cure Wounds on the werewolf, and all 3 break out of the side of the castle, passing stealth and athletics checks to get past guards and climb over the town wall. The town is now turned against itself, trying to figure out where the werewolf is. The guards are fighting each other, and the town is in fear of a serial killer. She wasn't supposed to have any access to the gated community until she did a few quests to get a good reputation around the town, and the werewolf is stronger than normal and was going to be an encounter much later. She enjoyed the hell out of these 2 sessions and wants to already play the next one, but now I gotta basically put everything I had already on the side and make up new stuff since she embodied chaotic alignment without even knowing it. Why Shocking Grasp is the best spell ever. Over a year ago, I was playing my first ever campaign as a drow sorcerer. The party was investigating a college by which my character was being introduced. After establishing that I was kind of a dumbass, we went into the library, where there were sconces all along the wall that had a buzzing sound to them, as if electricity was supposed to be flowing through them. Without even thinking that I'm supposed to be kinda stupid, I reached for one of the sconces while the rest of the party was looking through books for information. Feeling like it just needed a jolt of electricity to light up, I cast Shocking Grasp while holding the metal sconce. I failed to get critical, thank God, but I took a massive amount of damage and went flying across the library like an old rag doll, landing on the work of an orc who was almost done with it. Later that same day, my party enters a cave. By this time, I had already used Shocking Grasp a few other times to get fire started or something else. But we enter a cave and split up. Me and our bard went one way, and our paladin, monk, and wizard went the other. Eventually, me and the bard split up, and I enter a room with a large group of goblins, and one massive pimple of a goblin in a corner. Somehow, I got a bucket on the head of one goblin and had them all in the corner with pimples. That's what I named him. They became hostile towards me, and the DM said, "Go ahead, I have a plan." So I reached out and put my hand on the bucket-headed goblin and cast Shocking Grasp. None of us expected for me to roll a natural 20. I started cracking up. Our dungeon master started cracking up. And the rest of the party was like, "Why is this so funny?" The dungeon master looks to me and says, "Roll for a luck check." Something we did for shits and giggles. On the roll, I got below a 10, so it was bad luck in general. The pimple of a goblin starts to make gurgling noises and starts to inflate in size as if it were a balloon about to pop. I had one reaction, use darkness, but I was stupid enough to use sorcery points so I could see through the darkness, which is not what I wanted. So I watched as a fat, grotesque goblin blew up, throwing chunks everywhere and on myself. Needless to say, my character was scared and wouldn't even talk about it when the rest of the party asked what the smell was. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Shocking Grasp will always be in my spell list. How a player derailed my campaign with 5 simple words. A few months back, I started to DM my first campaign. It was a simple 5th edition homebrew game based off of a book that I'm writing. I say that I'm writing it, but I still haven't finished chapter 5, so... In the first actual dungeon, our intrepid heroes discovered a red metallic orb on a stone pedestal. Upon reading the inscription that was engraved on the stone, the party learned that this was called the Cursed Orb of Avari. I touched the orb. I turned to my friend who was playing a chaotic neutral high elf wizard with a charlatan background. He was one of my good friends who hadn't played D&D much, if ever. On his first quest, he used his charisma and seductive personality to seduce 3 goblins with a striptease. I asked him to roll performance, which he, of course, got a natural 20 on. Yeah, that's the kind of chaotic he is. I raised an eyebrow when he said he wanted to touch the orb. Then, a smile crossed my face. He didn't know this, but I had specifically created this orb with the intention that he would be the one to touch it and activate it. I even added hidden effects to this cursed item that would bring up some hilarious yet horrifying memories. One example was that there was a chance that when he rolled a 3 or lower on an attack roll, that he would be surrounded by 3 enemy goblins. With a devilish grin on my face, I said, "Sure, go ahead." The party members were horrified when he touched it, as the orb immediately floated into the air and spoke in a demonic voice. The orb called the wizard a foolish mortal and asked why he woke him from his slumber. Yada yada yada. The usual. He was the only one who could hear the orb, as it had bound to him and him alone. Being the chaotic and unpredictable person he is, my friend named him Balthazar. When they went to leave the dungeon with Balthazar in tow, they were encountered by the boss of the crypt, Marcus Blackthorn, the evil revived necromancer that had risen all of the undead in the dungeon. After defeating him, the party observed that he didn't die. but that the evil aura that had surrounded him had dispersed, leaving behind Marcus in the 30-year-old body he had when he died 200 years ago. The party picked up Marcus so that they could get him medical attention and exited the dungeon, only to realize that there were also undead that had risen outside the dungeon. They made a mad dash for the town, losing the mindless horde behind them, killing any that got too close. Skipping several hours of unnecessary details, the party realized that Marcus, who was now a player character, was somehow connected to the orb, which was somehow connected to the god of chaos and evil, Ryukip, homebrew pantheon. When they all met up in the morning, they had seen that the innkeeper had been murdered in the night and immediately went into investigation mode. When Marcus saw that the wizard had bonded with the orb, which he didn't know since he was in a separate room, he became very upset and demanded that he be very wary of the orb, as it had brought him nothing but misfortune in the past. It was at this point when one of the party members said the 5 magic words. "We should destroy the orb." Balthazar became very upset at this, telling the wizard that he must kill the party member that spouted such hostile words. The wizard then willingly let Balthazar possess him, and the party went full civil war. The wizard began to fly while sitting on the orb, shooting beams of energy at the party. One of the party members erected a wall of flames between Marcus and the wizard orb, which I call the duo from now on. The battle was more intense and aggressive than the fight between the party and Marcus. The rest of the party tried to make a trap for the duo, but with every passing turn, they grew stronger. It was at this point that the wizard pulled me aside and asked the most important question of the campaign. Can I become the bad guy of the campaign? This immediately solved all my problems. But my campaign was still way off course. I said yes, and told the rest of the party that the duo had absorbed the flame wall, shaping them into a fiery tornado, and then a giant eagle as they flew off towards the national capital, which was a week's journey by foot away. At a speed of 300 feet, I calculated later that this would mean that they would get there in a little over 2 hours by air as opposed to 7 days. I had so much planned for this campaign, and with those 5 words, they just took a massive turd on it and shoved it in the corner. I even called this possibility of the story for future iterations of the campaign that I ran the PETA arc, or the Pain in the Ass arc. I never finished the campaign after that time due to scheduling conflicts, but it is my most memorable Dungeons & Dragons moment. I learned a very valuable lesson that day. Expect the unexpected. A bit late, but here's a short one. There was a chaotic neutral fighter who kept on being an edgelord and killed off the sole survivor town guard after an attack after combat was over. I was a wizard. We eventually scale 3 separate towers to challenge a dragon from 3 separate sides. Eventually, we are victorious, but the fighter did so by leaping from his tower and plunging his sword into the dragon's neck. So they started falling, and for him, to his death. I look at the dungeon master. I'm on top of one of the towers. Is he in range for me to cast Featherfall? DM responds, "Yeah, he is." I reply, "Okay," and say nothing more. "Are you gonna cast it?" "No." The bard had to save his life. I very much did not want him alive. In one of the first Dungeons & Dragons campaigns I ever played with my friends, we kept an undead skull as a pet and named it ᴊᴜ, a woman in an irreversible, persistent vegetative state, which was a right to die legal case in the United States from 1990 to 2005 involving Teresa Marie Schiavo. I remember that we fed it blood. Yeah, my friends are fucking weird. Later on in the campaign, we end up buying a ship, setting sail, and basically throwing away all the work that our dungeon master had done. So, when we were out at sea, as we were, out on a boat at sea, well, he decided to spawn another ship with a mage who shot fireballs at our ship, blowing it up almost instantly, where we ended up washing ashore on a random desert island. Yeah. There on the island, we end up coming across a very weird stone door, carved with very weird, intricate designs none of us could recognize. Unfortunately, we were all just too dumb to figure out how to get past that door. We end up spending the entire rest of that game session trying to figure out how to open the friggin' thing. Did not budge. And that was the end of that campaign entirely. We did not go back to that one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all we have for today. Thank you for sticking around this long, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Dungeons & Dragons Stories from the internet. I'm Spaghetti, and if you've enjoyed this, why don't you give it a like, and if you haven't already, why don't you subscribe as well. And I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you later. What you still doing? What you still doing? You got it. It's over. Video is over.